buy a plasma screen TV, we can search for two things. One, the best value, so the lowest cost and the highest quality. And I think that would go a long way to bringing the costs of healthcare back in line where they need to be in this country.
All right, great. How do you suggest we reduce our energy dependence on foreign countries? Do you support more oil exploration and drilling and nuclear power in the U.S.?
I think it's vitally important that we become less dependent on foreign sources of energy, period, petroleum or otherwise, in this country. You know, I always say what we do today with regard to energy policy is going to drive our economy for the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades to come. And my approach to energy is an all-the-above approach. So, a couple things. First, I think it's important that we start incentivizing individuals in the private sector to invent and invest in and consume higher energy-efficient products, and that we start to invest and look forward to the future for the next generation of electricity and energy production in this country. But at the same time, we need to embrace the sources of energy that we have domestically, not only here in this country, but here in Illinois. So I do believe that we should be developing oil fields in places like Anwar and off our intercontinental shelves, that we should be harnessing the natural gas that's in the plain states. And we have vast amounts of inexpensive and easily accessible energy here in Illinois. Coal. You know, the problem is that it's a dirty source of energy, but you know, there are exciting things happening in the coal industry today, such as carbon capture and carbon sequestration, that are in their infancy. But if we incentivize people to invest in and innovate in these sources of energy production, that we can become more energy independent in this country. And you know, there are other things that we can do. You know, we don't know what the next generation of electricity or energy production is going to be. It hasn't been invented yet, by definition. But there are things that we can do today to bridge that gap between the petroleum and natural gas-based economy we have and whatever is going to be, you know, the 22nd century's, you know, energy source. Nuclear is a great example of that. It's a carbon-free source of energy, and you know, it's a shame that we haven't licensed a new nuclear plant in this country in over 30 years. It's something we should be doing. But also, you know, we need to invest in, you know, things that make us smarter consumers of energy. We need to invest in a smarter grid. You know, it's one thing to produce the electricity, but we also have to get it to the consumer. So, you know, that's why I think it's important that we, you know, make investments in our grid to make it energy efficient and a smarter movement of electricity from the generator to the consumer.
All right. With continuing on that, do you give any credence to the August 2009 climate feedback articles by Drs. Lindzen and Coy from MIT and the emails from scientists at the University of East Anglia Climate Research Unit, or do you believe the science is settled?
Well, I think the very fact that we're debating whether or not the science is settled is pretty good indication that it's not. But, you know, I'm not going to weigh in on that. The thing that I think is important, though, is that we look towards, you know, sources of energy that are more environmentally friendly. You know, the bottom line is good energy policy, good United States domestic energy policy is good environmental policy, it's good national security policy, and it's good economic policy.
All right. Do you support increased taxes and or penalties on American citizens and businesses due to the perceived effects of the increased levels of CO2 in the environment?
You know, when I look at things like the Kyoto Protocol and what's being proposed in Copenhagen and what we're doing here domestically, you know, to ourselves with regard to cap and trade, I think it's wrong-minded. When you hamper countries like the United States with self-imposed restrictions that don't apply to developing nations and other countries, what you're essentially doing is unilaterally disarming in the face of a global economy. And it's going to have a zero positive effect on the environment in this world. Because the problem is that when you place carbon limits on American producers and American consumers, you know, any job that you can move overseas they're going to move. Certain energy production, coal-fired plants, natural gas-fired plants that actually produce energy, you can't move to China or India because physics dictates that it has to be close to the consumer. But if a steel company or a company that manufactures something for consumer goods or for industrial uses, it's going to ship over. It's going to go overseas. When you look at the estimates for the increase in the cost of energy for cap and trade alone, it's anywhere between 20 and 40%. So those manufacturing jobs are going to go to places like China and India and Russia and Mexico that don't have the same strict environmental standards that we have here in this country, that don't burn clean coal, that don't invest in scrubber stacks. And those manufacturers then are going to be held to a lesser standard. And they're going to be polluting more than what they would be polluting here in the United States. So you're not going to have a benefit to the economy or to the environment. What you are going to have is a decimation of the manufacturing base in this country. And I'll give you a real-world example. I met with a business owner of a small, medium-sized business that employs many people in the 14th Congressional District. And what he told me was that they're in a position, they have cash on hand, and they've identified different projects that they would like to make capital investments in their business to expand their production capacity. And they also have positions that they would like to fill, job creation. But they're not, because 30% of their cost for their business comes in the form of purchasing energy. In the face of uncertainty created by the U.S. Congress and the federal government, cap and trade, they can't make that investment because they don't know what the cost of their energy is going to spike to if that bill becomes law. So, as I get out and talk to people and listen to people are concerned about jobs. They're concerned about the economy. And it's certainly going in the wrong direction to be creating this uncertainty and creating burdens for American manufacturers and job creators in this country. So I would certainly oppose things like cap and trade.
All right. Do you believe amnesty should be granted to those already here, or should they wait behind those who came here legally?
I categorically oppose amnesty by any name. I think that when I approach the issue of immigration, I do it in a two-pronged approach. First, before we do anything else, we need to secure our borders. Because whatever you do in the second half doesn't make any sense if you don't know who's coming in, why they're coming in, and whether they're going to leave when they're supposed to. So first and foremost, let's secure our physical borders, our northern border and our southern border, but also our cargo ports and our airports. Immigration policy is, by and large, an economic policy, but it's also a national security policy. We've seen just recently, another terrorist attempt on this country. There are people out there who want to see harm come to Americans on American soil. And this was another instance where it was being perpetrated through our airports and through the air travel system. So we need to continue to strengthen our security, our border security. But second of all, it's also important that we start enforcing the laws that we have on the books today with regard to immigration, and also that we look forward to be able to ensure that American businesses